YouTube, what is going on? Gino Bonino here, and I am going to ask a little help from the comic book community. So if you would be so kind, press pause and go get a piece of paper and a pencil and jot down some stuff because I'm going to ask for your help, those of you that are more knowledgeable on specific stuff than I am. I've talked about it many times. I think I have a pretty good general knowledge of comic books and collecting and care and displaying and all that kind of stuff. I've been doing it for quite a while. And, but stuff happens so quickly. Stuff bubbles up so quickly. Books get hot, cold, stay the same, whatever. That what you really need is somebody that's got their ear to the ground. Somebody, for example, I know there's people that collect Valiant and only Valiant and can tell you pretty much without looking what book is sought after, what book isn't. I have people that do variants that can tell you what issue of what book has how many covers were done, including the store variants and stuff of that nature. And there's people that can tell you Marvel books. And again, what happens is what I've got, just to kind of put the subtext to this all, as I used to do, I used to work conventions. And in doing so, I used to buy multiple copies of a lot of books. The idea being that one would go into my personal collection once again, and the other ones I would put on a table to be sold at conventions. They'd be what we call table books. More often than not, the asking price would be either $5 or $10, depending on how hot it was, and they would sit there in a pile, and they would either sell out or they wouldn't. This was a good alternative to give people a place to get books other than now they'll turn to eBay and things of that nature, Facebook, Instagram, etc. What they used to do back then, at least in the bigger cities, is we would have a convention on either a weekly or every other week basis, and they would come to a convention and they would grab the hottest book. They'd pay a little bit more for it, but they would at least be able to get a copy of it in their collection and one that wasn't beat up and stuff. So many of these books are books that came directly from Diamond. Then were boarded and bagged and either sat on a table and didn't sell or came back to the collection or whatever. So what you're seeing in these boxes of keys are what I kind of determined to be valuable books that someday I'm hoping to do something with. But and I had multiple copies of it, meaning there's one copy, hopefully if I did it right, one copy sitting in my PC and multiple copies elsewhere. Now, most of them are here. What I did is stuff that has bubbled up. I've put in different kind of what I call my black boxes. My black boxes are books that I'm going to do something with instantly. Usually going to grade them. Typically, they're books that, again, my analogy is if the house is on fire, grab the black boxes and run. The other stuff is valuable, but not as valuable as the stuff that's in the black boxes. So it's things that I deem to be super important. So what this stuff is stuff that I know is a key issue, or maybe even a minor key. At least it was, 2-3 years ago when I sorted it. And what I need for help from the community is if you see something that you think is hot or going to soon be hot that you think I should do something with, get it graded, just other than just leave it sit here, please let me know. Now, there's a few things that I know myself that are going to be in here that probably are worth dealing with, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that I don't. So if I run into books that are your expertise and you've seen these either at a convention, comic book store, whatever, and they seem to pop, or you've seen them on eBay recently, and they're super valuable, please let me know. Most of the stuff that's modern is going to be near mint or better. Most of it's, to be honest with you, hasn't been messed with. It's been bagged and boarded and brought in here. And again, it's and there it's sat. So this is my second box. I've got 4.5 long boxes full of keys. The second one here starts at letter B. It's the continuation of Bloodshot, and it goes on to Iron Man. So there we go. The first issue I kind of know about. The first issue is Bloodshot number 7, which is the first Ninjak. What I'm going to do with this, just to kind of let you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to send this off to CGC. There's a few copies of this. with a 9.6 or better pre-screen on it. So if it's grades 9.6, 9.8, I'm going to ask for it to be slabbed. If it doesn't, I'll ask them to reject it and kick it back. It's a $5 cost. To me, it's well worth it, because these books, to be honest with you, specifically, this is kind of what I'm talking about. These books, if they don't, if you don't have a 9.6, 9.6 will probably pay for itself. 9.8 will be worth the bother. So that's kind of what my stipulation here is going to be. If it seems to be something that is worth grading, that'll get a good grade, let's do it. If not, let's just keep it in the box and deal with it as either sell it raw or whatever. And again, I know there's a lot of people that are like, why are you thinking selling comic books, yada yada yada. I get it, but I've got one copy for my own. That copy's not going anywhere. These are extras, so it's silly to be hauling them around and messing around with them, stuff like that. So once again, let's get past that. What I'm asking for is some expertise. So if you'd be so kind, leave it down in the comments what you think. If you see a book that you think is valuable, or one that for whatever reason it's noteworthy, maybe it's one that I think is a key and hasn't been a key for a year and a half now, and you think, hey buddy, get it out of there, put it in your dollar box, that's fine too. Knowledge is king here, so nothing is off limits as far as sharing with me. So go ahead and do what you got to do. So starting off once again with Bloodshot 7. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 copies, and I think I've got about 9 copies of it in the box before this. This is kind of the continuation of that. But again, what I think I'm going to do is send it in with a pre-screen of 9.6 or 9.8. I may even just do 9.8. I'm not sure. I've got enough of them to where it'll meet that threshold. I think you've got to do 20 books or more to ask to have pre-screened, and I think I do, so we're good. I do have Cable 1, and I know this book has a little bit of heat behind it, but nothing worth messing with. Cable right now is kind of he's sort of on the back burner, so we're going to leave him alone. I've got some old Captain Americas. Now the older books, the books from like the 70s and whatnot, they're not going to be in near mint or better condition. I just happen to have more than one of them, so I put them here, but they're not ones that I'm probably going to deal with, just because I don't think they would. Certainly they're not worth grading to have slabbed with the idea that they're going to go anywhere, because there's enough of these 70s and 80s books in 9.6, 9.8 condition, so that if they're not that, it doesn't even bother to mess with. So if it's a 70s, 80s book, I probably already know the answer to it, but hey, maybe I'm missing out on something. So feel free to put old Captain Americas, nothing special. Old Cerebus. I'm not sure what to do with Cerebus. He was part of a collection that I bought from somebody, and they were way into indie stuff and whatnot. I know for a fact this isn't first print. I think this is second, third print maybe. I think I have the issues 1 through 12. And again, I don't know too much about it. So if you happen to be a Cerebus knowledgeable person and you think that this book would be worth dealing with, let me know. My personal feeling is no, don't mess with it. So it's, as for right now, it's just going to stay there. Civil War, not much there going on. Daredevil, even though there's some cool books here, again, they're not in the kind of condition where it would probably pay to deal with them or get them slabbed. Once again, cool book, great cover, Frank Miller, but it's, again, it's one of those books that just isn't a near mint copy, so it's just not worth dealing with. Daredevil 319 used to be a kind of a hot issue, believe it or not. Mainly, I think, because of the white cover with Daredevil. I think he's, what's that, Empire State Building? I think so. Either falling or getting pushed off Empire State Building, and again, it was sort of a metaphor for the book, but it was a great cover. Dark Claw, no. Darker Image, no. Let's see, plenty of those. Dark Hawk, no. Doctor Strange, I do have the new the issues that are kind of bubbling up a little bit, but again, by the time one would send these things in to get graded and all that, I don't think it would be well worth it, so I'm going to give that a no. Death, the High Cost of Living, these are even though it's first full time that Death gets his own book, I just don't think it's worth messing with. So I'm going to say no. Same thing with Deathmate Black. Defenders, giant size. Once again, good books. Nice. If I had it in 9.8, I probably would get it graded. But I don't, at least not in this box. So I think the idea is you don't mess with it. Then, let's see, we've got Doom. Now, here's where we start getting into, I need a little help. We have my Eternal Warrior run, and I've got issue 1, which I think is probably worth grading simply because it is the first Eternal Warrior book, first issue. So I think it's probably one that I'm going to send in. But here's where we start getting into interesting area, which is issue 4. I know this is the first appearance or first cameo of Bloodshot, and my guess is, my instincts are, these are nice copies. My instincts are to probably send these in for grading. I've got 4 here, and I think I've got a couple more in my spec boxes. I just simply haven't pulled these yet, and that's what I'm doing this video for, to kind of get an idea. What I think I'm going to do with that is pull it. I think I'm going to send it in with, once again, a 9.6 or better on it and see what happens. I've got 4 copies. And what I think, just dealing with Valiant in general, I kind of think what's happening with Bloodshot now is what went on with Iron Man #1. I think if it's a hit, it's going to open the door to a bunch of Valiant properties getting picked up and made into movies. Harbinger, Eternal Warrior, etc. If it is not, if it's for some reason, if it fails at the box office or doesn't get enough, following or whatever, we'll see. I mean, if Vin Diesel can pull it off, ought to be a good movie. I know the stills, the shots have been looking pretty good, but I'm hoping that it's a hit because I've got a bunch of Valiant stuff that I kind of need to do something with. So, and I just didn't want to let it go until it, back in the day. In the 90s, Valiant was the equivalent of probably Image today, in that it was anything they put out was automatically looked at. So I'll draw a comparison. Image then was kind of like The Walking Dead is now, which is it jumped incredibly high, and now we'll wait and see what happens. It could possibly stay high. It may take a bit of a dive, I'm not sure, but I'm not hoping it does. I'm just saying that what happened with Valiant stuff is it jumped. It was crazy hot. I mean, some of the prices you'll see on these books are insane compared to what they are today. Here's a good example. $6.50 for an Eternal Warrior #5 because it had Bloodshot on the cover, which was probably a steal back then, but now I bet you can find these all over the place in the $1.50 box. But anyway, I don't think there's any other ones that are worth dealing with. I don't think Evil Ernie is worth dealing with. Giant size Fantastic Four. I don't think I have any Fantastic Fours in here that are worth getting graded, even though there are some cool scroll books. I just don't think they're in that kind of shape. As you can see, this 204, it's a beautiful cover, but it's got some issues and stuff like that, so I just don't think it's worth messing with. And any of the new Fantastic Four stuff, like 371s and things of that nature, just are, they're just not being looked at all. So we'll let it slide. Now, here's where I don't have a whole ton of knowledge. The collection that I mentioned before, these books were in it too. This was with the Cerebus. So this guy was, I bought this years and years and years ago. This guy was a big DC guy. So he has Flash. This is issue #1. This copy needs a good press, and it could probably be, could be in about the 8.0 range. That's what I'm guessing. I don't know if it's worth messing with, the 8.0. Don't have 2, but I have, actually I think I do have 2, but I have a couple of these, so that's why they're here. Issue 3, issue 5, issue 7, issue 9, And my instincts on the Flash is I missed the boat. The series has been out forever. The interest is probably already kind of waning. I know they're going to be losing some characters from the show and stuff like that. So my instincts on that is probably don't mess with them, just leave them. However, if you guys know differently, let me know in the comments, please. Gen 13, same thing. It's kind of it's a collector's book, but certainly not one that you want to have slabbed. It's kind of, people get it just for the full runs and stuff like that. Generation X, I've got a couple of these Green Arrow Longbow Hunter, which is kind of a cool book, but again, I don't think certainly worth slabbing. Here's another one that I've got a question of, guys. Sorry about that. This Green Lantern run, 48, 49, 50. This is where Hal Jordan kind of loses his mind and goes and kills all the other Lanterns. Some sweet books, very good shape. Probably would grade in the 9s. I don't know if they would be 9/8. I'm not positive, but I do know that they were well maintained and good copies. Also have Green Lantern number 4. What is this? The partnership Green Arrow Green Lantern book. Ghost Rider. Nice book. A lot of people look for this, but I don't think it's worth grading. Issue 1 probably would grade in the high 9s. Issue 2, not worth typically doing. And these black and white, I think I have both copies, the first and second print, the glow-in-the-darks. I don't think worth messing with. And I know everybody has shown these books. I got a bunch of these, the Snowblind. But once again, not worth messing with. Guardians of the Galaxy, no. I know for a fact, Pansy, it's not a good copy, even though a lot of people have that in their collection. I've got a bunch of these. I mean, a bunch of these. This is the Harbinger trade paperback with the 0 in the poly bag. But I don't think it's worth messing with these. I think the best thing to do with this would probably be to sell for people that are looking for the story, and give them, they'd have a nice solid copy. Now my instincts on these are to grade these. I think, once again, Harbinger is one of those series where if Bloodshot does well, Harbinger probably is in production now or will be shortly thereafter. Especially, once again, if Bloodshot is a hit. I've got a lot of these. I've got 4 copies, I think, here. And I think I've got 2 or 3 more copies in my spec box. So my instincts on number 1 is to grade these, get these slabbed. I've got issue 2, and I don't think 2 is going anywhere. As far as aftermarket, 3, same thing. I don't think it's going anywhere. And 4. Now that story may change if the series gets made, because I know a lot of these 1 through 4 have first appearances and things of that in them. One thing I do want to say about 4, and I kind of want to do this as a cautionary tale, a lot of people may not know this, but this reportedly had a print run of 4,500 copies, between 4,000 and 4,500. At least that's what was reported. And of those, there's coupons in this that people clipped and used for a send-away issue. So figure a quarter of those, the coupons clipped. So you've got now about 3,000 copies sitting out that would be worth collecting, to people that want a complete issue. And then from there, figure 1,000 got trashed. 1,000 ended up getting water damage or bent in half or something. So now you've got about 2,000 copies in the wild that are in good shape. So that's not a very high print run. 2,000 back in the 90s, was minuscule. Compared to today, 2,000 was nothing. And for that reason, this issue commanded a lot of money back in the day because of its scarcity. This issue, I guarantee you, was triple digits. It was either, a lot of times I would see them, 100 was not unusual, 200 was not unusual, etc., especially if they were near mint copies, and these were. My point being that what happened is, as soon as this issue fell off the radar screen, it lost value, almost to 0. You can probably find this in dollar boxes. I bet if you look, you can certainly find this in back issue bins for $5 and less. And I wonder out loud, and I'm not trying to diss anybody's collecting, but I wonder out loud if that's not the way sometimes of your high ratio variant books, where people say, well, this is scarce. It's got a print run of 2,000 copies or 500 copies or something like that. And right now you may have, and the only reason somebody thinks it's valuable is because it's quote unquote scarce. And all I can say to you is scarcity does not automatically mean that it's going to hold a value. I get it. The idea being, well, there's not many of them. And if there's not many of them and people want them, they're going to want to pay the money for it. So well, the problem is, in order to buy a scarce, high ratio variant book, you have to dig out of pocket. I know a lot of people talk about, what's the ratio? What am I paying versus how much 500 copies would cost me? And they figure, they do the math, and they say, hey, it's well below ratio. I get it. But if you're buying it for yourself, if you love the cover art, and you absolutely can't live without it, go for it. It's your money. You should do what you want with it. I get it. But if you're doing it as an investment and you're hoping that because it's a scarce book, it's going to automatically retain its value, and 10, 15 years from now or later, if you leave it to your children, they're going to have a major collectible on their hand, I would question that. And the reason being because 20 years from now, mostly what people are looking for is print runs. They want to fill, let's say they want to fill a print run of Avengers. So they're going to go for everything. And in doing that, they've got an option of paying $20 for, say, an Avengers 6 modern book, or $500 for asking price for a variant cover, scarce 1 in 500. They're not going to spend that. Not unless they're completionists and got money to burn. They're going to probably go with the $20 book, fill their print run, and move on. So, once again, the idea being this was a scarce book. This was a very, very high value book. Now it's not. Is everything like that? No. But the story hasn't changed. The cover hasn't changed. The thing that's changed in this book is it's fallen off the radar screen. As soon as something falls off the radar screen, it no longer is a collectible book. It no longer is sought after. So you may say that there's a low supply, and there's a low supply of these books, but there's also a low demand. And if your demand is low and your supply is low, the book's going to stay low. If you've got a high demand and low supply, that's where things jump. And right now you may have that. Right now may be a great time to get a high ratio book and flip it, because you may have, it's on the radar screen. People are interested in it. But the minute it drops off, in most cases, the book is going to lose value. That's not always the case, and I'm certainly not going to tell somebody how you should collect comics. Nobody should tell anybody how to do that. Nobody can tell me what I should and shouldn't collect. I won't listen to them. But all I'm saying is, buyer beware. You can't say you haven't been warned if you're stuck or have a 500 to 1 ratio book and you're hoping that it's going to, don't get disheartened. Don't say the comic industry betrayed you. It didn't. What happened is you didn't look at the data. There's not enough data on those high ratio variant books to be able to make a logical thing and say automatically it's going to go up. That could be with the whole comic book industry. I see people saying that it's in trouble. I disagree. I think actually the comic book industry is in great shape, especially for collectors, because it's lived through digital comics. It's lived through different distribution models. It's lived through bad movies that had came out and almost ruined certain books and things like that. And now it's making in my at least from where I'm standing, it's in great shape, and it's making a comeback for the people that are truly in it for the comic book. If people are, I think a lot of speculators maybe have been driven out of the market. But what I see is a lot of people that are both a collector and a speculator. They'll sell books because they want to make money to buy more books or to buy what they like to collect. They will sell, for example, Valiant books to buy Silver Age Marvel, which is kind of what I did, things of that nature. So I think the market's in fine shape. That's just my opinion. It could, bottom may drop out and prove me wrong, but I think it's truly going to be something that's going to keep going for a while, because if it was going to die, it would have already. But I think movies are strong. I think the CGI to be able to make the movies is strong. And as long as, and people are going to the movies, it's putting asses in seats. And as long as you have that happening, you're going to have a good, strong market. So, getting back to what I was saying, I think issue 1, I'm going to slab. I think 2, 3, and 4, I'm going to keep an eye on and wait and see what happens. If a Harbinger movie gets announced, if you know for a fact that it's in production, let me know, because that may alter my decision. Got some Image books, got some Hulk books. Nothing really of note here other than to say people are talking about the Professor Hulk storyline. And actually where that starts is well before 377. It kind of starts, let's see here, I know the issue, I think I've got it, 362, if memory serves me right, which is right about here, where they start drawing a distinction between Bruce Banner, Green Hulk, Grey Hulk, and how they all have 3 different distinct personalities and things like that. And what eventually happens is all 3 of them get merged into Professor Hulk, which happens here. I've got 2 or 3 copies of this. I think it's a little late to worry about getting it slabbed, but I do think maybe selling a couple would be an option. I do have a newsstand, which is cool. I've got 2 or 3 in my spec box as well, so I think I got like 5 copies of that. Nothing else really of note here as far as Hulk goes. Nothing that ties in with Immortal Hulk. So I think that's about it for this box. So just to review, Bloodshot, yes. Eternal Warrior 4, yes. Eternal Warrior 1, yes. Harbinger 1, yes. 2, 3, and 4, jury's out. The Flash, jury's out. If you guys know for a fact that some of those are worth dealing with, let me know. And that's where it ends. We end with Iron Man. Nothing really there of note that would be worth slabbing. I know this is a cool book. Love the cover, but again, I don't think it's in the kind of condition that would warrant getting it slabbed. So that's it for box 2. There's more to come. There's 2.5 more boxes. I'm going to do the same thing. 27-minute video, which is insane. Sorry about the length. If you've stuck in with me this long, thank you, and I appreciate it. And again, guys, Gino Bonino, I am out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of the community. Please like, please leave a comment. Let me know if you see something that either A, you think is worth dealing with or slabbing or getting rid of, and B, if you see something you like, let me know, because these are duplicate copies, so I don't necessarily, they're not as coveted as, to me, as my single copies, which are over to my right. So again, guys, Gino Bonino, I am out. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Happy hunting, and I'm gone for now. Bye-bye.